Fultz, feeling good, my brother. That is something I used to say when I come off a warm up. The hair was flowing in the wind. I just sniped a couple bar down, walking into the locker room. That's how I walked in. I think I'm going to start the show with that every time. But how we doing, buddy? I know rookie camp is underway. The new rink in Utah. I'm not there. I'm so jealous. I got FOMO like you wouldn't believe. I'm seeing all the pictures, all the Instagram posts of you guys at the new facility. I'm hoping you're not, using that hot tub too much. That's players only, buddy.
Maybe not the hot tub, but certainly the kitchen snuck in there and got a few of the healthy cookies, whatever they are. But I like that, Tyson. Open up the show with that. That's great. Did you still have the weight vest on at that point when you'd come in screaming
Eh,
that?
Hey, we haven't told that story yet. So, and I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure if I can get suspended. 20 years past the last time you
Statute of
played.
limitations. You're fine.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But yeah, that weight vest story, that is for certainly another day. But anyway, the facility, just
Yeah.
the excitement, the buzz around Utah, Salt Lake, the team, the Mammoth, the jerseys. How good do they look, buddy?
Yeah, it boots on the ground. New merch. I'm
Ooh.
repping it here today. But we had rookie camp this past weekend. The rookies were up in Colorado, going up against the prospects for the Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. And now this week, we got the big boys on the ice. We got main camp here. They've been having these captains practices, but we're going to start to get official training camp practices this week. They're getting their medicals all taken care of. Their fitness testing, which isn't as much of a thing anymore. But Tyson, I know that was your favorite part of camp. But we have boots on the ground. I think maybe it was Veggie or Nate Schmidt almost ran me over in his car the other day coming out of the facility. Like it is here. It is here. And the facility, like I know you haven't been in there as much, Nasher, but it is insane. And I haven't gone back like through the player stuff yet. They don't let us back there, but the two sheets is unbelievable. And Nasher, did they do this in Arizona where they would have guys skate and then come out real quick, cut the ice, and the guys would go to the other sheet? That way you can do more in practice, and it's way more efficient, and it's just better for everybody. Was that in Arizona as well?
It is. It was, and I mean that has become a thing, right? I mean, a lot of the guys they want extra work. You got skills coaches, you got nutritionists, you got all these things that I never certainly had back in the day. You just had the three coaches behind the bench and maybe a medical guy in the locker room. But these guys, they'll go out early on one sheet of ice, carve it all up, doing skills. They got cones, they got tires, they're flying around, they're shooting pucks, one timers, all those things. Then practice would start and they would come over and they'd have another clean, fresh sheet of ice. So it's just another tool, right? That is another step ahead of the game because a lot of teams, I will tell you, do not have that. Right. And I can tell you another thing from what I've seen and what I've heard. Other teams don't have what the Utah Mammoth has. The best practice facility on the planet, the best locker room in the National Hockey League on the planet, right? This is now a destination. You walk outside, you look at the mountains, you show up at a game. The fans, you know it better than anyone, being in that lower bowl every single game. How loud it is, how crazy the fans are, and Utah has gone hockey crazy. It's a basketball town, but it is now hockey crazy, and the free agents that this team is going to be able to sign. Players want to come to Utah and play for the
Yeah.
Mammoth, not only because of the city and the facilities, but also, like you're seeing front and center right now, the future of this team, the players that they're bringing in, and they are there. They're in the
Yeah.
arena. Camp is underway, and I cannot wait to have main camp kick off.
The facilities are not all the way done. Like you drive by and the front of it where most fans or spectators would walk in, that still has a ways to go. They're doing a bunch of construction there. They're still building like the risers for some bleachers so people can watch practices at one point or we can have youth hockey games. But the ice and all that stuff is fully functional, which is a super exciting time for the Utah Mammoth. So I don't know if you caught this, Tyson, but talking about nutrition, like you mentioned a little bit ago, there was a clip from Maverick Lamoureux. He was talking about his diet. He put on 15 pounds, former first round pick defenseman, put on 15 pounds this offseason. He was setting alarms for himself to eat his meals throughout the day. He was eating like something like four like actual meals with shakes and snacks in between. Did you ever have to do that, Nasher? Did you ever have to try and put on weight like that? I know you came out of the womb jacked, but that's a hard thing to do, to force yourself to eat like that.
Yeah, that is what you call dedication, right? And you hear from Coach Andre Turney talking about Clayton Keller and all the things that he's doing in the offseason. And this is the captain of your team. So when you see him doing that, it just has to come natural for a young player like Lamoureux, who I'm sure wasn't happy about getting sent down and not coming back up as the season went along, right? So these are the steps you have to make as a young player. I'm sure it was, mentioned to him, you need to put on size, you need to put on strength. And he took that to heart. You love to see that because he wants a spot at the table. He wants to put on that Mammoth jersey for real. He wants to be an NHL player, and certainly he's going to be a big part of this team. But if it was weight, if it was strength, he's addressed that. That's what I love about the start of the season, how dedicated these players are. And now more than ever. Back when I played, it was just becoming a thing. Guys used to come to training camp to get into shape, right? It was guys like Al McInnes and Dally Drake that were like, they had trainers and they hired them all through the summer. I think they were spending like 10 grand a summer back then. I don't even know what it is now, but it's astronomical, the price. But it's an investment in yourself, right? And it pays big dividends as your career goes along. But Fulta, I don't know if it's too early. I don't want to bore everyone to death, but we had a guest. I was on Spittin' Chicklets. We had to bring a guy, a huge personality in the league. I played with him. He slept on my couch in San Antonio when I got sent to the minors. One of the biggest personalities in the game, Keith Yandle. We had him on the show. I'm not sure how much we had to edit out of this show, but he was an absolute beauty. Fultz, Keith Yandle.
The Utah Mammoth is sort of proud to present NASHCAST.
What the is a NASHCAST?
NASHCAST, the only hockey show on the planet. Hosted by a human speed bag, fourth line wannabe, healthy scratch, schnozzy moto, Tyson Nash.
Who the hell is Tyson Nash?
Never heard of him.
And the baritone with a brain, the velvet hammer, Mr. Silky, Tono Suave, the radio voice of your Utah Mammoth.
Go Blue!
Mike Fulta.
Oh, Captain, my Captain!
NASHCAST begins now.
Ready for takeoff.
Here's Tyler Ganoush and Mickey Foghorn. Wait, what? Oh, here's Tyson Nash and Mike Fulta.
Wow.
Wow is right. Yands, I can see you on the side. First of all, this is Keith Yandle, folks. Boston's own, born and bred. 1,109 games in the National Hockey League. What is it? 989 consecutive. That was the Ironman record. At one point, he got passed by Phil Kessel and that bag of milk body of his. 3-time All-Star. No Memorial Cups, though, for this man. That's the only place I have him. And current owner of that hat right there, the Gargoyles. Yands, you were laughing way too hard. Way too hard that introduction.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I've done a lot of podcasts and radio hits or whatever, like we all have, and that is the best intro I've ever seen, and so true. It's like I made it. It's like somebody else. It is so tip of the cap for whoever made that. Absolutely beautiful work.
Yeah, beautiful is right. But meet my partner, my co-host, Mike Fulta. Listen to this guy's pipes.
Keith, it's great to have you on. Big fan of what you guys do in Chicklets. Did you know you were going to get into Chicklets and media and all that stuff when you were done playing?
First off, great announcer's voice right there. You sound like you could have been doing a 1960s baseball game. Unreal.
He sells it, though, doesn't he? He's like,
100%.
It's like, get out of broadcast mode, full.
It's for radio is the line, right?
Yeah. Hey, he leaves the interview. He's like, all right, that was fun. Yeah, no, amazing stuff. And what a head of hair you got there too, Mike. Both of you guys should be the salad cast instead of the Nash cast.
I go to Tyson's stylist. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Yands, I'm in the middle of a build right now, all right? I got no mirrors. It's like I comb my hair with a pork chop right now. I probably got a big booger in my nose. I haven't looked in a mirror in over 3 weeks, so it hasn't been pretty. And I needed to score more goals. That's all I know. I'm hemorrhaging money over here in Kelowna.
Yeah, well, with a background like that, all you need, and I know how you live, like you don't need much. You could just use a TP and a pillow and maybe a blanket. But I mean, that view you got going right now, I know you're stealing your neighbor's Wi-Fi, but it's an unbelievable background.
You're exactly right. I'm at my neighbor's house right now. We did Spit and Chicklets in the same location. So I'm going to probably get a hefty bill because up here in Canada, it's not unlimited Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Keith, what is he wearing right now? Like we get the great Keith Yandle on the show, what record holder for the Ironman streak, and he wears a life preserver to the interview. Like, come on.
Just in case he falls in that river.
Yeah, well, Yands wore this when he was a defenseman. It was like a cone. You just went around the cone as a defenseman, right? The best part about this shirt, though, Yands, I think you'll appreciate the best nickname, the best name ever in hockey.
Oh, Ronnie. Wow.
Ronnie Tugnut.
Unbelievable shirt. And for sure, you're the only one who has that shirt, which is even better because you're a one-of-one type of guy. But, yeah. That's an unreal. I missed the Wales in the Campbell Conference. Those jerseys in the All-Star games were the best back in the day.
Beautiful, right? I mean, these things are beautiful. I wore this for my member guest in honor of Ron Tugnut. Again, the best nickname in hockey. So, yeah, these things they pop. They pop, Fultz.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, you look great, Nasher. Keith, I get like a message every day from this guy about him waking up next to slugs, like in his garage or somewhere where he has to sleep every day because his house isn't finished. It's just like a nonstop train of these calamities that are happening with his build right now. But you guys have had him on Chicklets, what, like 4 or 5 times or something? I mean, he's got to be one of the most popular guests.
Yeah, he is. He really is. I mean, we all know Nasher and love Nash. It just brings the energy every time. It's usually whenever you need a guest and you don't feel like saying anything. You just give him a quarter and he talks, right? So you don't really even have to prepare for much. You just say, "Hey, how was it running a couple guys from behind?" And then he just goes. So it's beautiful.
He can talk a starving dog up a meat wagon.
Yeah.
Except when I got sent down. Except when I got sent down to San Antonio. Keith Yandle, this guy, 3-time All-Star, Fultz. This guy lived on our couch in San Antonio when he didn't make the Coyotes at the time. I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here as far as the interview goes, but that was Keith Yandle. And look at him now. Where are you? I mean, are you in Nantucket? Are you in Florida?
I'm in Florida now. School started back up, so back in Florida for the winter time. Had to leave Nantucket. It's my favorite place in the world. It's my happy place, but good to be back, get back in the rhythm. Now it's, work for Biz, who's like working for I can't even say it, but just a guy who makes us do something every single day. I feel like I'm
slave driver, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. But so we got interviews, so it does feel like when I'm back here in Florida, it feels like the season's about to start. Things are going to start ramping up. You get back into your routine, so it's definitely nice to be back and talk some hockey.
Well, Fultz, nobody loved Boston more than Keith Yandle. You kind of lost your accent a little bit, by the way. I heard your mom. She is heavy Boston. I mean, I absolutely loved listening to her speak. I just laugh, right? But why Florida? You are not built for Florida, Yands. I think we all know that. I mean, the skin tone. But you love Boston. Why did you not end up in Boston?
You know what? It was just kind of at that point where my kids, they had only been in school. I mean, they did a little bit of school in Phoenix and New York, but like the pre-K stuff and all that. So, but when we came down here in Florida, they were starting first grade, kindergarten. So it's kind of, this is all they've known. All their friends are down here. And we love being down here. We've made such a great group of friends outside of hockey. It's, the weather's, I mean, it's a little hot right now. You get the hurricane seasons, which is tough, but 6 months of absolute perfect weather, T-shirt and shorts every single day. Get to play golf.
Please no Speedos. Please no Speedos.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm still a T-shirt and a pool guy. You know me. This bag of milk. But but it's amazing. And then get to beat the heat a little in the summertime. Go up to Nantucket, get my fix of Massachusetts, and great little script I got going right now.
Here in Utah, we're also kind of in like a new hockey market, right? Like I guess, a non-traditional hockey market. But what do people not living in Florida not understand about hockey in Florida and the way it's grown? Because the last few cups have all gone to Florida, right?
Yeah, and I tell the story all the time. I remember I think it was after like my second or third year in the NHL, I was getting a haircut in Boston, and the lady was asking me who she was my barber. After that, she was my barber for the last like 20 years. But she asked me, she was like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" So I told her I played hockey. She asked where. I said Phoenix. She's like, "Oh, do you think you guys will ever? Do you think you'll ever get the chance to like maybe get called up and play the Bruins?" I'm like, "Well, actually, we do play the Bruins. We're in the same league." So like, people outside of Boston don't really know too much about other, especially the West Coast. And this was obviously early 2000s where the internet wasn't more as accessible as it is nowadays. But same as you guys in Utah, it's one of those things where it takes a little bit of getting used to the team being there. But I think what you guys have done, especially with the jerseys colors, the what it looks like to play there, I think it's going to be one of those things where Utah people are going to be dying to play there. That it's such a everyone I've talked to has said how much they love playing there. So just like Phoenix and other non-traditional hockey markets, I think it's going to be one of those spots, and Florida as well, that people are dying to play there, and because there are things to get away from it, right? In Florida, you can be on the ocean, all winter time fishing. You're not getting harassed by fans as much as if you were up north. And then, for you guys, you just, the sightseeing, the skiing, you got so much stuff to do there where it's not all hockey all day, every day, where people have other stuff to talk about. So I think that it's a nice balance when you play in those type of cities where hockey is there and people love it, but it's not every single day you're talking about it and getting harassed.
So we're doing a massive initiative like we did in Arizona. I know you're a big part of that as well. Learn to play, all that stuff. But for you, I mean, growing up, I grew up in Edmonton, right? So it was all Edmonton Oilers. It's balls cold all winter long. There's not a lot else to do, right? The CFL, I mean, is the CFL, right? Is that even football? I'm not even sure you can call that football. So we didn't have a lot of other sports to get into. But for you, Keith, when you grow up in Boston, you got the Celtics, you got the Patriots, right? All the Super Bowls, and then you got the Sox. I know you're a big baseball guy, but why for you hockey? I know it runs deep in your family. I think, wasn't one of your uncles or something the Zamboni driver?
Yeah,
I love it.
A bunch of them work at it's just kind of all my family's from Charlestown, and all the people, they work at the rink, at the Fleet Center or whatever it's called now, the Garden, and whether they're changing the ice out in the Bull Gang to switch it from the Celtics to the Bruins, or doing the Zamboni, couple of aunts that work the concession stands upstairs. So it truly is like one of those things where we'd be playing games and I'd know guys who were cleaning up the ice on during the play, during the TV timeout, saying hello. So it was always fun to go back and play there. But yeah, like you said, hockey is which I learned later on in life, that hockey wasn't as big as it is in Boston now, that it was guys like Bobby Orr, not Glenn Anderson, Sanderson, those guys, Jerry Cheevers, Ray Borks, the Reggie Lemlins, like those guys were out there and building rinks and getting rinks in, they're called MDC rinks. They're owned by the cities, but they're in your town. So we had an MDC rink in our town. The ice was there. We were able to skate kind of whenever there was open ice. It wasn't as much as a money grab as I feel it is nowadays. It was kind of like, hey, show up and play some hockey with your friends. You played your town hockey. If you were lucky enough, you made a travel team, you were able to play for them.
Glorified dads or coaches. Unlike now, they're paid.
Right. Yeah, and I was lucky. Like, my dad played at BC. He coached high school hockey from, I think he coached for 35 years. So my whole life, we were going to the rink with him. And I looked at these high school players, and it's public high school hockey. I looked at them like they were the Wayne Gretzkys and the Mario Lemieux of the world. And going out on the ice with them and just, getting the love of the game. I just loved it. But my dad was, he was very strict, where it was, as soon as the hockey season ended, it was baseball season. As soon as baseball season ended, it was basketball. As soon as basketball ended, it was football. Then it was lacrosse. So I never played hockey more than just the hockey season, which I give him a lot of credit for, because, at the end of the day, I know if it didn't work for me in the NHL, I would have been an amazing gym teacher. So just being an all-around athlete is, I think something that's missing in the game, maybe in all sports nowadays, but especially in hockey. Like if you go into a locker room and fire a football at, even some of the North American guys, they might not know what to do with it. So it's a little
square in the mouth.
yeah. Now all their noses look like Nasher, so it's tough.
What's wrong with mine?
Did you see the Blackhawks draft that kid who's like going back to play high school football, and all of a sudden, instead of getting hockey highlights, the Blackhawks media is like tweeting out his 4 touchdown passes and stuff like that. So you really believe in like the cross functionality for guys and the ability to play different sports, and that's helpful growing up because that's what you had?
100%. I think it just, I remember one year I told my dad, I was like, I want to play basketball. And it was during those middle school years where it's like, you can't play both, right? So he was like, all right, well, you can't play hockey this year. So I played basketball, and I think it helped me tremendously, just, being able to facilitate the ball, just like in hockey as a defenseman. You're passing it, you're moving, you're getting open, you're seeing.
Except you're 5'2".
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, I know I wouldn't have made
jump.
it. Yeah, but I could dish a basketball. I'll tell you that. I think every sport, baseball. Think of it like, how hard is it to hit a baseball, and then your hand-eye coordination, keeping a puck in at the blue line or tipping a puck in front of the net, and then lacrosse got big in my town. I think it was my 7th grade year. It blew up, and all the hockey kids started playing lacrosse. So then lacrosse took over, and it was like, oh my God, this is so good for my hands. This is basically the same. Like, it's a vicious sport, and you're playing it. It's kind of like hockey on a field where you're taking abuse. You gotta work hard to get to the hard areas. You got to use your body really well. I just think so much stuff in other sports helps you out in hockey that, if you're a one-dimensional athlete, I really think it'll, not benefit you as much as a kid who can, go out there and pick up a baseball and throw it, 50 yards, or a kid that can, like, you look at a hockey player. Like, we used to work out with the Patriots guys, and even the linemen who are 6'6", 380 pounds, like, they would smoke us in races just because we don't know how to run. Like, hockey players do not know how to run, and it's like, they're like, how are you guys such good athletes? Like, you can skate on a blade this big, and it's so I really do agree with playing other sports. And like, even when I was in the NHL, I'd play in summer league basketball leagues where it's just like, to do something else but get a sweat, or whether it's tennis or racquetball, just doing other things, I think is such a benefit for you.
So Yands, you grow up in Boston. You play for Moncton, right? What's your family saying? You're like, I'm going to someplace in Canada, Moncton. Like,
Yeah.
What was that like? And obviously, what a year you had. Clearly a come to Jesus moment for you. You popped off. You had massive points. I'm not sure what you ended up with, but I think it was 84 points. You also had 109 penalty minutes, Yands. So what was that season like?
Well, back then, I mean, obviously it wasn't like the dub when you played in it, but it was not a lot of Americans were going there. And I remember, my coach, I had Teddy Nolan, who was huge for my development. Ooh. And he had, he was in the NHL. He had won a Jack Adams. And I remember Buffalo, him telling me, I remember him saying like, hey, like, there are guys out here that are going to try to come after you because you're an American kid. Like, you got to be ready to fight. And I was always willing. I had gotten I kind of fell in the draft because I had gotten into some trouble off the ice. I was never afraid to throw my hands, but, on the ice, it was kind of, you didn't do it for us. Like, in high school, you couldn't fight. In summer league, you could a little bit, but then you get thrown out for a game and your dad would be like, oh my God, I just drove an hour and you can't play the next game. So it wasn't worth it. But then it was just kind of one of those things where I had to protect myself, had to show, other opponents I wasn't afraid to fight, even though I wasn't used to it on the ice. And it was just kind of the way that the game was there. And unfortunately, I do remember I got like the third man in a fight and in the first period, and we end up winning that game like 11-0. So I would have had probably 100 points.
Well, we were talking about Moncton a little bit, and you played there with Brad Marchand, a guy who you watched hoist the cup with your old team, the Florida Panthers, this last year. But just what about him as a player in junior stood out to you? And I'm sure you knew that he had a chance to play and make an impact at the next level, but did you know it was going to be to this extent?
Honestly, no, because he was a little bit younger. He might have been like 16 or 17 when I was there. I was 17 or 18, and he was kind of like a third line guy, but you could tell like his tenacity on the puck, like you still see it to this day, like the way he puts guys in the spin cycle in the corners and just like relentless on the puck at all times. Like he had that. The skills and maybe the opportunity. Like we had 3 or 4 other guys that were probably, I mean, you hate to say it about a future Hall of Famer, that were probably better than him in Moncton, but it was, you could definitely tell like his drive to be good was there, his tenacity on the puck, his willingness to take a beating to get in front of the net, like, and it wasn't just in games, like he brought it every single day in practice. So I think
you love those guys.
I know. I was like, yeah, I'll go against Philip Dupuis. I don't feel like getting, turned around here all day, but he had the right attitude. He had the willingness, and I think it just all came together for him in such a good spot. He was able to learn from, some of the best leaders our game's ever seen, with Bergeron and Chara, and, even guys like Sean Thornton, Horton. Like you think of these guys, Savard, like guys that he played with that, I'm sure Nasher was the same way, but when you come in the league, you're just a sponge to these guys, and you try to learn as much as you can. And I know he was definitely like that, and he's given it back now as a veteran leader.
So you played with some stud players as well, coming up in the National Hockey League, drafted. I couldn't believe when I looked at this. Best part of this job, Ray, I know you do it for Spittin' Chicklets, the research, right? When you dive deep into these guys, like we all played together, these guys, you think inside and out, and then you kind of see the adversity and the stories, right, that lead up to their careers in the National Hockey League. I find it fascinating. But for you, you come to Arizona, the team that drafted you in the 4th round. I thought you were like a first rounder, dude. I didn't know you were a 4th rounder. I mean, I was a 10th rounder, so you weren't far behind. But Derek Morris, Adrian Aucoin, Ed Jovanovski, like some of these guys must have had a massive. Shane Doan as your captain must have had a big impact in your career.
Yeah, I tell the story all the time. If I didn't have Donor, Derek Morris, even guys like Ken Klee, Jovo, even like I was kind of there to steal some of his power play time. Like, but he was never a guy that was, hesitant to help me out. He was always there, willing to answer questions, take me out to dinner on the road. But you need those guys. Like Shane Doan and Derek Morris are number 1 and 2, the guys that meant the most to me in my career, that just really looked after me. They drove me to the rink every day. So you knew when to be there. You knew how they prepared. And 2 guys that got prepared completely different. Like Donor would sit in Stan's room and just talk horses for 6 hours, and then Mo would be on the bike. I just
bought this saddle, and
yeah.
Look at how does my look like in these chaps?
Yeah, well, they're English chaps, Donor, so they don't look great. And then Mo was a guy, like as soon as he got to the rink and finished his coffee, he was getting ready for the game, and whether it was watching video or in the gym working out, getting ready. So just 2 guys that completely had different routines of getting ready, but 2 guys that played a ton of hockey. So to learn from those guys, that, a free education from those guys. But I think of just the rides to the rink, like just driving to the rink with those guys, talking about who we're going to play against that night, especially when I had Mo as a D partner. I called him the traffic director, because he let me stand in front of the net, and he went side to side, and he just like did everything. He did legit everything for me. And he'd put a tape to tape pass on my stick, and then I'd pass it up to the forwards, and next thing you know, you sign in a 5x25. It's amazing. It's like it truly is. Like if you have a good partner and a guy that cares about you, and a guy that shows interest in you, like it can help you so much. And I was lucky enough to have so many of those guys, and including yourself, Nasher. Like down in the minors, like you obviously for you it's not where you wanted to be, but still letting me live with you, showing, that you still got to,
Letting
even
you
though you're,
sleep on my couch.
yeah, exactly. With no sheets, by the way. But still, like, just to see, like, you were pissed, you didn't want to be in the minors, but you still showed up every single day. You were the hardest working guy on the ice every single day. You were first guy there, last guy to leave. So it's little things like that you see, and the way you talk to coaches, the way you handle things. It was
Yeah, I tried to fight the coach.
yeah, he deserved it though.
I love it.
Nasher as a roommate, like, what was that like,
Ooh.
Keith? Are there any stories there? Was he at least taking care of you? I mean, giving you like a bed sheet or something to cover yourself with, or a pillowcase when you're on the couch? Like, was he just leaving you to your own devices?
Yeah, and you got to remember too, that's before you had iPads and cell phones that had internet. So it was, you stayed up and talked with your roommates or whatever. But Nasher was a guy, as soon as we got back after dinner, he went right into his caved it up, talked to his family, because you got to remember he had a young family. I'm sure he was missing them.
I was miserable, folks.
Miserable.
So take the judging hat off. All right, here comes Judge Judy. Okay, like, I was miserable, right? Like, I had played 9 years in the National Hockey League. I'd sent down to San Antonio, right? And I'm living with a couple 20-year-old kids, which I love because it kept me on my toes, right? They brought out the best in me. And I was a miserable human being. I had 3 kids under 5 years old. And the only good thing was that I was making one-way money. That was the only good thing. But I'm getting my face caved in now, back in the minors where it all started. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, how did this just happen? Thanks, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that was your first NHL coach, right, Keith? Wayne?
Yeah, he was. And it was, and Nasher told the story the other day when he got traded that Wayne was the first one to call him, and it reminded me when I got drafted by them, he was the first one to call me too. And my ignorance, I didn't even know he was the coach of the team. I didn't even know Phoenix had a team. Like, so it's kind of one of those things you're like, why is Wayne Gretzky calling me right now? So, but obviously, it worked out so well for me, just getting away from Boston. Phoenix made me live out there in the summertime, my first few years, which was huge for me, just getting away from my buddies, because all my buddies were going into college, so they're on a different level. I was trying to make it in the NHL, but you don't even know at that point. You're just like, oh, this is my next step. I'm going to try to play hockey as long as I can. But, and then you go out there, and I was working out at, what was the place called? Exos? Exos, yeah. And, working out down there, and there's NFL players in there, and there's all these NHL guys, and you're like, oh my God, this is a job. Like, I had never worked out a day in my life, and it's like, wow, these guys are doing this in the summertime to get ready for the season. Okay, this is the big boy league. So I think a lot of it for me was just seeing guys do things and, trying to do what they were doing, and, being a sponge.
Dude, I gotta say, again, doing the research, right? Mike Yeo pops up, and I'm like, I like Mike Yeo. All right. I know you know where I'm going with this, but I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this guy's got 989 consecutive games played. Like, first of all, hats off to you. I think that's one of the coolest, one of the most unbelievable records, because when you play, you go through the grind. You know how hard it is. I mean, I know you weren't a physical guy, but you get a shot in the foot. You're sick. I remember doing an interview with you one time, and the whole team was sick. You literally had a puke bucket on the bench, and I stick the microphone in your face. He's like, yeah, poor Stan Wilson tonight. You can't, I think you said you can't trust a fart, and we're burning through underwear all game long because everybody is sick on the team. But you lasted through COVID. You lasted through sickness, healthy scratches, until Mike Yeo. Are you kidding me, Mike Yeo? How could you do? That's almost a Babcock move when he didn't let Mike Modano play 1,500 games.
Yeah, that one's way worse because, who Mike Modano is, and it's one game. The thing that stinks looking back, and it would have been cool to get 1,000 in a row. But honestly, I was playing so bad, like I deserved to get scratched. And, another kid, it was Ronnie Attard. He came in, and he had just came out of college. So, like, how cool is that? He gets to play his first game. So you you take what it is. Like if I was playing well, I don't think they would have scratched me for, but I was playing so bad that I definitely deserved it, probably deserved it way before that. But yeah, obviously it sucked at the time. And the only thing I wish is, 1,000 in a row would have been cool, but either way, I know Phil was going to beat it. He was right on my heels, and I knew he was going to play
He
longer
should have been
than
a
me.
healthy scratch a lot of nights. I can tell you that. At his time in Arizona.
But realistically, the record should have been what's his name? Jesus. Cogliano, Andrew Cogliano, sorry.
Oh, right. Yes.
And then he got the 1-game suspension. So, and I was right behind him. I always felt so bad about that because he got a 1-game suspension for it wasn't even anything crazy, maybe an elbow, but from George Peros, he had played with George. So I had kind of always felt bad that it should have been him. And he played so much harder than me, where he probably deserved it more so that, a guy playing through injuries and putting himself on the line every game. So it was kind of one of those things that was cool to have. And, I think it took 30-something years to break, and it took Phil about 30 days to break my record. So it was
you had it.
all good.
You had it, buddy.
Yeah.
You had it. An NHL freaking record, dude. That's so badass.
Well, you mentioned just going through it every night and battling, and you mentioned one of the leaders that made an impact on you earlier was Shane Doan in Arizona, and he had you and Biz to deal with in Arizona at one point, so he must have been pulling his hair out, hair turning gray with all that. But just kind of going back into him, what did he mean to you as a leader when you first got there, and he was kind of showing you what it meant to be an NHL player?
He literally meant everything. Besides my dad and my brother, he's the number one reason why. In those, they got me, my brother and my dad got me to where I was after high school and into junior. And then it's like Shane called my dad and was like, "Hey, I got it from here. Like, hey, don't worry, I'll take care of him." Because, I had some issues off the ice. I, was kind of burning it from both ends at a young age. And,
Did I rub off on you?
Yeah, exactly. But you needed that guy to sit you down, and Donor was one of those guys that kind of sat me down, and he was like, "Hey, if you want to last in this league, look around. Everyone's married, everyone has kids, no one's going out every single night. You can't be down at ASU, doing what you're doing." And obviously
you're probably too old for that too at that point.
No, I was only 19.
The creeper in the white van.
Yeah. Free Skittles. But it just for him to have the, and I don't know if he saw something in me, and I'll digress a little bit. My first camp. So Keith Tkachuk and Keith Tkachuk's dad and my grandfather were firemen together. So Keith Tkachuk, unbeknownst to me, called Shane and was like, "Hey, look out for this kid. He's a family friend." I had never even met him. He was just doing that as out of the goodness of his heart. Walt let me live in his house that year. He had an apartment in Greyhawk with a car. I didn't even have my license. I was driving the car around. So it was just the hockey community, and, a lot of credit to Big Walt for, calling guys. Oh, there he is. I hope you didn't hear any of that. I hope you didn't hear any of that, because at the end of the day, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but honest to God, and I know he's on here right now, and I said it before, if I didn't have Shane Doan in Phoenix, I wouldn't have played one game in the NHL, never mind however many I played.
Holy, do you guys want a room? Are you guys okay? Holy jeez. Look at this guy.
Enough mahogany in Donor's room for
Yeah, where the heck are you, Donor? And why do you have Andrea's shirt on right now?
Really? With that thing, the thing you're wearing right now, you're going to make fun of my shirt? Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Are you allowed to say that last name?
Frick nut.
Hey, Yands, I gotta ask you, okay? First of all, what was your first thought? What was your first interaction? You're a young kid in the National Hockey League. Shane Doan is your captain. You just obviously stroked him for a little bit there. I love it because he deserves it. But his first, I guess, snap, right? He comes in the locker room. He's the captain. Frig sakes, what's going on? We gotta friggin' be better. The guy doesn't swear, right? But what were you thinking? I mean, you're a Boston kid. You're like, what's going on? What, can he say it? Like slap him on
Yeah.
the back and spit it out. Say the word, Donor.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I grew up hearing that, people say you swear like a truck driver. My dad was a truck driver. So, like, we grew up, you hear an F-bomb like you hear a hello. And it was definitely, when he first came in, I'll never forget, he had one snap show where in Wayne, I think Donor like broke his wrist or his hand and obviously playing through it like a lunatic and came down on a 2-on-1 and he passed the puck, which is a rarity. And Wayne was like, Shane, you got to shoot the puck. What are you doing? Like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you're not a playmaker. And he's like, I frickin' can't. My frickin' hand's broken. I was like, oh boy. I'm like, this dude. I'm like, imagine being that mad. Yeah. Son of a birch tree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Enough. Okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Oh, he's here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, hey, Donor, look, give us a side profile again. Let me see.
No,
that.
no, it's okay.
Hey,
No,
yeah,
it's all right.
he can get that nose fixed now, right? Like he's been
100-yard dash and a 90-yard gym.
Oh, I'm so glad I came on here. This is awesome.
Donor, what? So snap at Yands again. Like, what was your first? Yands came in a little chubby, right? Kid from Boston. what was your first thought of Keith Yandle, the wild card?
You know what? It was crazy. He got drafted in the 3rd round, and I was talking to our scouts. Fourth round? Sorry, 4th round. And they were talking to our scouts, and our scouts were saying how this kid's should never have won in the 4th round, but the night before the draft, you got into a bar fight and you had a couple black eyes and stuff. And so the guys were like, he fell because when he's getting interviewed, he had a couple marks on his face, and he was 218 pounds. Like, Yands was 218
on that frame.
I know.
I know. And they're
like a button on a fur coat.
So the scouts were like, we weren't exactly sure. And then one of the scouts was like, is that not what we want? Like, we want the guy that is like not afraid to stick his nose in there. And that was probably my very first ever hearing Keith Yandle, other than Keith Tkachuk was like, hey, this is a guy from Southie that we're all kind of related down there, as bad as everyone is in central Alberta. And so take care of him if you can. That was the first time I'd heard of him, the first time I saw him. Yeah, and Yands had a tough night or afternoon in San Antonio.
Fell in the river walk. I was by myself too. That's when you know you have issues.
That was unbelievable.
What, like took a misstep or?
I was overserved. I was overserved somewhere, and then found out that the boys were all at this bar. Meanwhile, I was 18 or 19.
19,
so, yeah.
18 or 19. I'd never met him. And I talked to the bouncer at the front of the bar, and I was like, hey, we might have a couple 18, 19-year-olds come in. They won't drink. I'll make sure I'll keep an eye on them. We just want to sit together as a team. And I can't remember who came up to me, and they're like, Donor, you got to go talk to the bouncer. He's not going to let Yands in. And I was like, what? I talked to him already. I walk up there, and yeah, you had been overserved a little.
It looked like I was on a boat.
And he swims like a rock. How many rashes did you get coming out of that river walk, by the way?
Yeah, not good. It was not good, but
Rasvada.
Yeah.
Little Rasvada.
Played through it.
I love it. Well, Yands, I know you tell the best story. Illya Bryzgalov, Donor, I know you guys both played with the guy, but give us a little, Bryzgalov backstory, what it was like. Goalies are messed up in their own right. We all know that. Anyone who stands in front of a 100-mile-an-hour slap shot, but give us a little Bryzgalov, Yands.
So the one that comes up all the time is that we were losing, 5-0, whatever it was. And, it was at the end of the game. And I'm like, you know what? There's 10 seconds left. I'm going to wheel the net, try to go end to end here, get stripped at the, probably the red line. They come down. They don't score. There's like 2 seconds left. They don't score. And that walk in Phoenix, it's a long walk
forever
to the yeah. And
you should try doing that walk when you get knocked out.
Oh yes. Which way? Yeah. But so all of a sudden we're like walking down the tunnel and I just hear goalie skates coming charging down at me, and he starts chasing me into the locker room. He's like, "You try to ruin my goals against average," like yelling at me. I'm like, oh my God. Then all of a sudden I look up and Donor and Nick Boynton and Keith Ballard are like charging him to like beat his. I think Donor actually had to like tackle Boynton, and then like Keith Ballard gets in and guys are holding him off, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on here? I think it was one of the last games of the year. I was going down to play in the playoffs in the minors, which I think I got scratched in. And then, but like Brizzy, I think Donor made Brizzy come on the bus and like apologize to me on the way to them drop me off at the airport. I'm like, what is going on right now? But yeah, he was a lunatic, straight up lunatic.
Yeah,
Don't
we
you?
had the
Go ahead, sorry, Donor.
we had the discussion because it was. I was like pretty sure Yands doesn't want to go back down. Like, Brizzy, shut your mouth. The kid doesn't want to go like this. The last thing he wants to do is screw up, and he's not worrying about. And Briz couldn't get past that point. And then Brizzy did apologize. I'm sorry.
But
But hey,
But-
what was the we got javelinas in Arizona, right? I mean, give us the Brizzolini Yands.
yeah, so we used to call them the Brizzolina because you'd come back to your house in Arizona and like your trash barrel would be knocked over. There'd be trash everywhere, and you could smell the javelinas. They stunk like they were wild pigs. And if you skated, and as a D-man, I had to stand in front of the net next to him, and you would just it smelled like a javelina. So we started calling them the Brizzolina. It was not good. We'd be like, Stan, can we please watch his equipment? He'd be like, I've been trying to. He won't let me do it. He stunk. But he was a good goalie.
He was a good goalie. He was a good goalie.
That's awesome.
Donor, talk about like, I mean, you got Keith Yandle, Derek Morris, Adrian Aucoin, some obviously big, impactful players to Keith's career, but you had also Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I mean, you guys went to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, Yands and OEL together. How special was that for you? I mean, you played a gazillion games in the National Hockey League. Only one hat trick, by the way, but you played a lot of games.
That was a fun night.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. It was unbelievable. It was crazy. Those two guys, you didn't appreciate it when it was happening. You kind of almost took it for granted. They'd each take the puck. I remember Yands, when he got traded, we were looking for a defenseman that could carry the puck up the ice to get it, because Yands would get the puck behind the net and take off. And before anyone was really close to making a play on him, he'd be at the far blue line, and it looked easy. And so guys were like, yeah, but he just carries a puck up the ice and gets into the other team's zone and just makes plays. Like, what else does he do? I'm like, well, what do you mean, what else does he do? That's the hardest thing in the game to do, and he does it casually every single shift. And it was one of those things that you didn't appreciate it because both of them made it look so easy. And the year that Yands was up, we were in Colorado and we beat him in overtime, and Yands was unbelievable. And at the end of the game, there was all these articles how Yands was in the running for the Norris. There was like Yands, there was like three guys. You remember it because you told me all about it, and you talked about it for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
But
It's still on his fridge.
But Yands, it was literally, the game was too easy for him at times, and it was the one thing you remember, Skinny, when we do the double dicky, so down and back. Nobody wanted to do him with Yands because he'd be 35 feet ahead of the second place guy, and from second to 24. So the rest of us that are on the ice, we were within like 20 feet of each other, and he was 35 feet ahead of second, and then could have done it 7 times. And we
not
were
even breathing
dead.
hard. Not even breathing hard. Oh, yeah.
It was the worst. It was the most frustrating thing because I had to work pretty hard to get up and down the ice.
Yeah, you were like furnace face. Donor was like furnace face, only because he had about 8 scoops of freaking ice cream the night before, right?
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Donor,
But it
not
was-
only was Keith a great player, he was a pretty good interview as well.
Oh.
There's clips of him in the dressing room interviewing Biz and stuff like that. I mean, when did you know that Keith was going to become this media podcast darling?
Well, for me, it was the interviews with Biz were like literally the funniest, best things that I could ever see. And yeah, it took a long time though for Jelly, it was his nickname, for him to bring out like let his personality be seen, eh, Ty? Like we would
Oh,
be, come on, like no one has even seen it yet.
yeah.
It's just starting to creep out a little bit here and there.
And look
But
out.
yeah, exactly. He After wins, Yands used to do this. He'd teach me how to Dougie. Is that what's the song? What's
Yeah.
this? Yeah, that was he would dance, and it was like his personality is so subtly big. I don't know how to explain it, but it was and you could see it growing. And as a guy that when he came in, I was blown away by his charisma and his ability to have the old guys wanted to hang out and kind of be like him, and the young guys just wanted to follow him around. And it was pretty. I've said it 1,000 times. Yands is probably the best teammate that I'd been with that I've had in a room that just had an impact on everybody. You hear stories about people in New York. There's a story about a gentleman that is the parking guy that when Yands got traded to Florida, lost it on either Dolan or who was the GM at the time? Gordon, one of those
Jeff
two.
Gordon.
And he was like, "You should never have traded him. He brought me a coffee every single day that I'd worked here." No one else even knew who this guy was. Jelly just has the ability to go and see people in real, like hear them, see them, know who they are, and not in a false kind of like, I want you to like me, just in a genuine, like, this is who I am. It's awesome. And
But
that one came out, and it doesn't come out in his interviews, but it's slowly coming out more and more the more comfortable he gets, and it's
these
awesome.
were also all learned habits. Like I learned all this shit from Donor, like going to the rink with him, 100%. Talk to Armando every single day. I'd be like, Donor,
The man with the smallest hands.
yeah, ever. What a guy though. But I'd be like, Donor, you're the last one at the rink. Like we have 30 seconds to get into the locker room before we get fined. We can't say hello to everybody, but he literally would stop and say hello to every single person. And it was just learned behavior. Like you follow around a guy like Donor, you're gonna become a better person, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess I learned it from Skinny because I was 15 when I met him. So
Yeah, I had to wait for this donkey every day. He's eating his bowl of cereal. We'd get fined. I'm like, dude, let's go. Are you kidding
It's
me? Like,
crazy.
what are you doing in there? You're certainly not doing
Yeah,
your
no.
hair.
Hey, Mike, you should see this guy I used to have anxiety every single game because it would take me like 18 minutes to get dressed. He would come in, you go out at 16 on the clock, he would come in at 16:40.
But I was the last one to leave, so I had like an extra 30 seconds there. So there was always a little extra
It
time.
was insane. It was the
He
most
never
impressive
wanted-
thing I ever seen.
Well, he always left late because he never wanted anyone to see you in the shower. So
Yeah, he didn't want to embarrass everyone.
yeah, exactly. That's more of the story. Yands,
Throw
I
it a
know you
peanut.
got. I know you got to go. Yeah, an elephant eating a peanut off the floor. I know you got to go, Yands. We so appreciate this. I know you got another interview coming up. Spittin' Chicklets, you're killing it. New owner, right? Gargoyles. I love it. Absolutely love it. We'll be cheering those guys on as well. But thank you for this, buddy.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And as an alum, oh shit, I should have worn my Utah hat. They sent me a care package last year. But as an alumni, I'll be rooting the Mammoth on this year. Can't wait. Didn't love that they traded my boy Josh Doan, but hey, that's just another that's something else. Especially to Buffalo. Jesus, right?
Exactly.
I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing the shirt to match the blue. So
I like it. I like it. I like it. I appreciate it. Yands, you are the absolute best, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, Keith.
So, Donor, I just want to keep you for a few minutes more. Again, I so appreciate this. But Keith Yandle, I remember you still talk about it to this day, and I know you touched on it briefly with Yands, how pissed off you were. You're the captain of the Coyotes, and you get rid of arguably your best puck-moving, carrying defenseman. I know how passionate you were and how much you loved Keith.
yeah, 100%. But there's been a few people in my career that I appreciated and understood and respect as much as I did him. And when we traded him, I knew that that was kind of the end for me too. I knew that we weren't going to probably be serious contenders. We'd had a chance there for, a year or two where we were, or 3 years there where we were getting 100 points, 108, 110 points, and made it to the conference finals. And then a year and a half later, we trade Yands, and I'm now 36, and I know, man, this is the end. And it hurt because I knew probably those two things combined, but you don't trade away people that are just good people. You don't. Like, those are, you use them to keep your culture going. You use them to keep your, if possible. I mean, it's not always possible, but you use them to keep your culture going in that organization. And that was a tough one. It was a hard one. I was very upset to the point.
Yeah, you spend you watch these guys and all of a sudden you get rid of them, and then you spend the next 10 years trying to get a defenseman like that who does all those things, right? Yes, he's a wild card, but again, you need those type of players. You just need to protect them a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah.
That's why he played with a Derek Morris, correct?
100%. And that's where, I think too often people get caught up on and looking at all the warts that they see on their players. So it's like, hey, no, Yands wasn't necessarily the shutdown defenseman. He wasn't the guy that you might necessarily be playing in the last minute of a 1-goal game that you're up. And there was parts of his game that you might not have said, oh, this is perfect. But his overall package and the man that he was so valuable that you couldn't find that again. And that's the part that bothered me the most. And that's what I think sometimes happens, is that if Yands was also the toughest, meanest, best defenseman you wouldn't be able to afford him. You wouldn't have been able to have him on your team, because he would have been a $15 million player, because he added so much in the areas of his character and his ability to move the puck and his ability to skate. Those were the things that, and when I got knocked out cold, by Keith Yandle was the guy that flies in there and fights him. Didn't do great in the fight, but he went flying in there.
He finished third in that one. Yeah, I did my whole career.
We all have a few times. And he went, but do you know what I mean? He's an offensive, puck-carrying, moving defenseman that isn't going to, wasn't necessarily going to be the toughest, most physical guy. Somebody hurt somebody on his team, he's the first guy to fly in there. And that's the stuff that you can't teach people, and you need it around for them to witness and see. And I think that's invaluable. And yeah, I was upset, but yeah, really upset.
Well, after a long playing career and now transitioning to the front office, do you have a different perspective on just the nature of trades and that side of the industry?
I think I think that you recognize, it's more watching the teams that have success and the fact that they hold on and they go after specific character people. And you look at what Florida did last year by specifically, I think, going after a Marchand and bringing in a Kachuk and doing the things that Bill Zito's done. You look at the teams that have had success, they always seem to have those character guys sprinkled throughout their lineup. And those are, whether it's character and being able to say something that no one wants to hear, or it's character and being a guy that's a cheerleader, you have to understand your room, and and I think that's probably the most valuable and important things, that as you watch things happen, that you, as a management side, you're like, wow, that really does matter. And it's hard because you don't understand the room. I always say players know first, coaches know second, management knows third. That's the way it works.
And trainers, they're
and
right
trainers.
up there. They might know first.
They might. They are probably with the players, because they're the people that are the most honest. The trainers get the most information from the players because the trainers touch them on a daily basis. And the equipment guys are the most loved because they're always giving. Like, you need a new stick? Oh, here's a stick. You need new skates? Oh, here's a skate.
Like Santa Claus.
Yeah, they're always giving you stuff. So they develop a relationship that's really tight. Your medical guys are always touching and rubbing and making sure guys are healthy. They get really close. Your strength and conditioning guys are the guys that at the end of the game are there to hear you when you're mad or you're upset about something. So those guys, they're your firemen that put out all the fires in the dressing room, and they add so much to your room.
Jeez. Donor. My goodness. Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you and I have talked about this 100
yeah.
times.
Oh, yeah. And that's why you love Stan Wilson so much. You guys were like best buddies. They still are, obviously, but those are the guys that make everything go around. And my last one for you, Donor. I again so appreciate this, but I gotta talk to you about, speaking of character guys. Your son Josh is you. The apple does not fall far from the tree. What he meant in that locker room, his play speaks for itself. He's a stud player. He's going to go on to have an unbelievable career. His first trade, I'm sure it was tough on him. I know how tight he was to guys like Logan Cooley in that locker room, Dylan Gunther, and they had such a young, great up and coming core. But that kid, I'm just telling you, I hope you're proud. I know you're proud, because that kid is one special, special human. Every time I see him, he's approachable. He talks to us. And that to me means everything in the world, right? You get on that airplane, and when you or him or Clayton Keller, they stop and just give the broadcasters, the trainers, 30 seconds of their time just to say hello. That means something. I know that came from you, but how is Josh doing? And what an opportunity, obviously, for him.
Yeah, he's excited. He was like, it was hard, and I mean, more in the fact that he knew everybody. Like, Ty, he's known you. Yeah, he's never not like since he was a newborn. I mean, you've been around, and he's heard the story. Yeah, exactly. But maybe not the best influence all the time, but but no.
Hey, I'm like Funkle.
but like, even the fact that he doesn't just know you, he knows Ty and Maddie and Georgia, and then he also knows Stan and Denver. He knows the families. He knows Tony Silva, and he knows, Dom and Ashton and everybody that's, those guys that just, he knows everybody's families and their lives, and just that part was hard for him. The other part, he's really excited. Kevin Adams and Eric Stahl are two men that I know really well, but he was excited. And he loved the players on his team. And that was the hardest part. And so when we got talking, he was upset, obviously. He loves his teammates, loves every player on the team. I was like, you just came back from the World Championships. How are your teammates at the World Championships? And he's like, oh, they were great. I love this guy. And I'm like, but give yourselves 10 days and you'll get to know them and you'll love them and they'll be your teammates. This is hard. Coming from a guy that's never had to do it. So like, shut up, Dad. You never had to do it. But at the same time, I know him, and it was really unique. And I think JJ Peterkin's a great player too. Like, I think that's going to be, he can shoot the puck, he can score 27 and 28 goals back-to-back years. You don't find that. So you understand that you have to give up a lot. I think Kessering's going to be a great player. I think it could work out really well for both sides. And that's probably, it's the business of hockey. And that's, no one likes it, but it's, you have this idealistic thought that the NHL is, hey, Ty, you have this thought, the NHL is this way. And then you get to the NHL and everybody's like, no, it's a business and you're going to have to figure this out. And then you get heartbroken, and then you figure out that it's even better. It just takes you a while to get to what it really is and the reality of it. And that's what's so special. So.
Well, we love Josh, and I think I made him late a couple times just from interviews and things like that. But he was fantastic to be around, and we wish him all the best in Buffalo. We know he's going to have a great stint there. And Shane, we couldn't thank you enough for doing this. This has been great.
Oh, no. If Tyson asked me to do anything, I tease it. No,
anything.
I just tease and joke about him a lot.
Hey, Jesus turned water into wine. Drink this. Nope. he still wouldn't drink it.
I will now. But it's one of those things that you ask Ty and I'll do. I am the biggest fan. There is a reason why everybody in the hockey world, he instantly smiles when you hear Tyson's name, because your day is you're going to have a better day. And it's going to be fun, and you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a blast. And he's got a great anyway, sorry. But yeah, thank you guys.
I'll give you 10 minutes to stop that. You can keep going. He's pretty handsy, Fultz. He's pretty handsy. We were roommates for a lot of years, okay? And I always told him, those aren't pillows, Shane. Those aren't pillows. We love you, buddy. We love you.
I love you too, man.
Can't wait to see you.
All right. So, yes, I agree. Are you still in Kelowna?
I'm still in God's country, buddy. Are you out of Shoe Swamp?
No, I'm down in Arizona. I'm heading back here, so I'm back here I just left. I just got here 2 days ago.
Oh, nice.
Back in Arizona. So
All right.
when's
Oh,
Ty come? Sorry,
he's
Mike.
already there, brother. He's already there.
Oh my
He's already
goodness,
there,
how pumped
grinding
is
away.
that going to be?
Fitness testing last 2 weeks. It's been awful, but he crushed it. He's loving
How'd
it.
he do in his 2 mile? How'd he do in his 2 mile?
I think he was, I think he finished second or
No way.
yeah,
I figured he would.
Yeah, he's a little beast.
Did he have
He's
the string? Did he have the string
Like-
this muscle shirt that you wore?
like I did?
I always thought they were for ladies, but Tyson had these string ones that were really.
I had nipple
Even,
covers
like,
on,
they
thank goodness.
Cover the nips at all, or
Yeah,
no?
that's it. That's it. That's all he had on.
It
was
wasn't
hold
pretty.
down to about here and yeah.
Yeah, it
Maybe,
wasn't
maybe
pretty.
he was a little jacked. Maybe he was a little jacked.
They don't test broadcasters nowadays, so it's perfect. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
oh.
Here we go. Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
my show. This is my show. All right.
Oh yeah.
I
know.
do the carving. All right. So
No,
settle
okay,
down over
okay.
there.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, thank you, buddy. We love you. And we'll see
Yeah,
you soon.
likewise. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jane. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks.
Fultz, does it get any better? I hope you guys all enjoyed that. This guy, again, one of the biggest personalities in the entire National Hockey League. That's why he is knocking it out of the park right now on Spittin' Chicklets. He's on TNT from time to time. He's on Amazon with Biss. Those guys are connected at the hip because they're the same personality. But Fultz, I absolutely loved it. And it brings me back. That story, I was between the benches. I step over, I interview Keith Yandle, and he was literally one of the only guys at the moment. He had a puke bucket right next to him at that point. I mean, that was a moment, and he talks about it. Everyone needed new underwear, new laundry, poor Stan Wilson, the equipment manager. But that is the stuff that happens, right? The fans are in the stands, they're cheering, they're loving this. They don't know all the time what goes on behind the scenes. And these guys were literally running to the toilets, running to the puke buckets, but they still found a way to play the game, right? I mean, that was impressive.
It was an unbelievable story, unbelievable guest. We've heard from Utah's general manager, Bill Armstrong. He said training camp is going to be really competitive this year. Maybe the only thing more competitive than Utah's training camp is people trying to get on NASHCAST. And so we had the cream of the crop for this episode, and someone I've always thought is hilarious on Spittin' Chicklets. And we got to have kind of two of like the premier quintessential hockey accents on the show. You had Tyson's Canadian accent, and then you had Keith from Boston, Mass, which was just perfect. So great show, Nash. I'd love to hear you guys go back and forth, and hopefully we can get Yands back on at some point. But a great episode with Chicklets for you. Some hilarious stories we gotta repost.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative. Obviously, that's one of the biggest podcasts on the planet right now is Spittin' Chicklets. So very grateful for my time with them. NASHCAST is kind of popping off a little bit. We're having followers. We need more. We need more listeners. I think once we just get people in the door, right, just to listen to some of these stories, because hockey players have the best stories on the planet. And I am trying to convince, first of all, two things. I'm trying to convince Chicklets to come down to that game. I think it's game number 2 or 3 at home. The Boston Bruins are in the house. Keith Yandle.
Sunday night.
Yeah. So we're trying to get them down even before that, the game against San Jose, to maybe do one of their Chicklet shows. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I am going to beg them. I'm going to have to dive deep into my Rolodex. Ryan Smith, I hope he can reach out to these guys to get them in the house and on the NASHCAST for the Boston Bruins game. I think that's going to be my first official NASHCAST TV show that we're going to do this year. And on top of it, I had a sandbagger. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it is unbelievably bad for me. My swing is atrocious, but boy, did we have a time. Shane Doan was my partner. I want a redo, and they want a redo as well. And they want Ryan Smith to set us up on one of the great courses around the world. I'm sure he might know a few people, but he is an absolute stick. He is a stick of a golfer. So I've upgraded my partner. Now we just need Spittin' Chicklets to make that happen.
I can't wait. Those are always fantastic videos. So Nash, great work, man. This was a fun one. Like the video and subscribe on YouTube, and then NASHCAST Official on Instagram and on Twitter and X. Be sure to stay up to date on all of our great clips there, and be a great teammate. Tyson, you were a great teammate back in the day, standing up for your line mates. Great teammates share the NASHCAST with somebody. Be a great teammate and share these great stories with the rest of our hockey community.
Fultz, so well said. We need more kindness. We need more love in this world. Love it, Fultz. Way to bring it home.